So welcome back to the Executive Coach podcast. I'm Maya, your host. And for a lot of people, September is a key well-being month. You've got the crisp mornings, hopefully some autumn sun, plus that back to school energy. What more could you want? And as part of this, you might be thinking about your routines and your well-being rituals. And I feel that rituals can really elevate some of the things that we value and the things that we want to build in. And we obviously looked at these in the August Rejuvenation as well. Now, today I'm delighted to have Mira Manek with me. Mira is an author with 3 published books under her belt. She's the founder of the chai spice brand that is called Chai by Mira. And she's also a speaker and a wellness expert. I consider Mira to be the rituals queen. Her second book is specifically on Ayurvedic rituals. Mira is somebody that I have connected with through our shared love of dance, specifically the Indian dance Garba. And what I love about Mira is that in a world of wellness influences that you might see on social media, knowing Mira on a personal level, I know that it's very authentic and that what she shares on her platform is very much aligned with what she's like as a person. I remember when I was first rediscovering Garba and Mira went out of her way to find me one of her skirts so that I would have something to wear to a Garba dance. And that's a reflection of her as a person. And so for you, if you're thinking about building some more meaningful rituals into your lives, ones that can have a number of different benefits, so good for your self-care, but also setting you up for great well-being, resetting your nervous system, having those additional cleansing benefits, then this conversation is going to give you 2 things. One is going to give you a way of thinking about your rituals and how to build them into your life without overwhelming yourself. And the other is that we're going to talk about very specific rituals as well, because sometimes it's nice to talk about the benefits of specific rituals as well, either so that you can take those on or so that you can evaluate some other rituals that you are currently thinking of building into your life. So let's dive into the conversation. For those of us who are thinking about embracing more rituals in our lives, I would love to hear your thoughts on how we can start to integrate them in a way that I guess is manageable, but also successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say when it comes to instilling practices and rituals into your life, don't think of them as overwhelming things or practices that you have to do for longer lengths of time. So try and, if you, for example, think, oh, you know what, my body just needs a stretch. And I always say, take one body and one mind ritual. So the body ritual could be a stretch. It could be a run. It could be once a week, a yoga class, but daily 2-minute stretch. So if you just say to yourself, okay, I'm going to start off with 2 minutes of stretching or 2 minutes of breath work or 2 minutes of waking up and listening to something really nice. Or actually, I don't have those 2 minutes and I'm just going to listen to something while I'm getting ready and just be a little bit more slower about it and be in a happy mood and not look at my social media. Because actually not doing something could also be a ritual, right? Like if your daily ritual and practice is to get up and first thing you do is look at social media, your emails, then not doing those things can actually completely change how you think in the morning and how you operate for the rest of the day. So I always say take those things and don't make them overwhelming, but take one thing. Make sure that it becomes a part of your day-to-day life and then take on the next thing. Work with whatever your needs are. Assess your needs. Work with whatever you need to instill in your life and understand what your starting point is. For somebody, one thing could be overwhelming, and for another person, instilling 3 things could be easy.
Yes. I think that's really nice to think about ourselves as sort of quite individual in that way. And I also think what I'm really liking about what you're sharing is that when you think about kind of well-being and the things that we want to do around our well-being, ritualizing some of that, I think, is really nice because it just goes hand in hand. Rather than feeling like we have a to-do list of things, we're actually just building some of these in a really gentle way. So I think that's what's really speaking to me about what you're saying, including like the breath work. I'd love to do even, a minute or 2 of that at the start of my day. There are a few specific ones that I want to ask you about. So you mentioned headstands. It's the one thing I can actually do. I can do a headstand, but I didn't even know if it's got I haven't looked into the benefits. It's just a thing that I used to be able to do. Have you noticed any benefits from doing it? And do you put a cushion under your head? Because I always think it's a little bit of pressure on the head.
A carpet is fine. For me, carpet is fine. I just can't do it on a very hard floor. If you look up the benefits, there's so many. It's good for the mind. It's good for elevating your mood. It's good for the endorphins. It's good for blood flow. It also brings the blood to the hair. So it's good for the hair. It's good for the brain. There are endless benefits. And I think, sometimes you can overwhelm yourself by being like, oh, what is it good for? And how is it helping me? And there's so many. It's always good to understand it. And that's why my second book goes into a lot of these reasonings, but also not to overwhelm yourself with, okay, so this will help me in this way, but I don't feel the benefit in that way in 2 weeks. Sometimes you're not going to feel the benefits of these things. It's like saying, okay, well, I'm feeling a bit low in mood. Now, what can help me? And actually, it could be the headstand. It could also be the fact that, you could also add saffron to your daily routine and have a hot milk with saffron, because that elevates the mood. And then you can also have some mushrooms, or you can also have some adaptogens. There's so many different things you can do. And those things they're natural things, right? So whether it's a headstand or it's saffron or it's spices, all these things are not quick fixes. So you're not going to feel necessarily the sort of elevation within a day, or you might feel it, but you don't know what to necessarily attribute it to. Yeah, you won't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, no, I love that. Actually, one of the rituals that we did in August, we did like micro things every day, I just did legs against the wall as a gentle ritual, because I thought that's an inversion that's a more doable one. So I put that one in because I do think that one I actually really enjoy doing before bed. It feels quite gentle. So just a couple of things. And I think I'm definitely somebody that I'm like, tell me the benefits and tell me if you experience them, and then I'll do the ritual. Like, I need to be convinced, basically. And I always imagine that my listeners do want a bit of convincing before they take an action. But you are absolutely right. It's not cause and effect, is it? It's not like we're going to sit there, do a thing, get a result. It's not like that. When it comes to you've mentioned the copper jug, right? Or the idea that we could drink water out of a copper jug and that this is available. Is that something that is it one of the ones that you think is quite an easy win? And do you quite recommend that one?
Yes, I mean, it purifies the water. It's good for anyone. We're all made up of different doshas and dominant different doshas, which is different body types in Ayurveda. And actually, it's good for everyone. And so, yes, it purifies the water. You can keep it in the copper jug or the copper glass overnight and then drink it in the morning. I would say that that's definitely an easy one. But there are so many principles that I think you've got to look at where your issues are. So if you have digestion issues, what things can you do to help those digestion issues? If you have no issues, but you just want to make sure that you are eating in a more Ayurvedic way or in a more, preventative way. A lot of these things are preventative and they help with longevity. And when I think about Ayurveda, I also think it's quite, I don't really want to use this word, but it's almost anti-aging, because it's trying to, all these practices, whether it's beauty, whether it's inside, whether it's outside on the surface of the skin or the stretching, all these different things, they help to keep you young and youthful. Massaging your body. If you're doing too many workouts and lifting weights and running, the massaging your joints will of course, it's going to help. So I do that every single day. I massage all my joints, and massaging your face. I've definitely seen the benefits of that one. I've done it for a long time now, and I actually don't even use moisturizer anymore. But I feel like my skin is the best it's ever been.
For massage, do you do that before bed? That one, I'm definitely looking into that. It takes me a long time to get started. Sorry.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Sometimes when you get started, once you get started, you will love it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a long massage that I do. I don't sit there and massage for ages. It's more about the fact that I use oils. And when you use oils and you feel them on your skin, you do end up just feeling like you want to, massage your jaw a little bit, or it feels good to do so, to iron out the eyebrow lines or whatever it is. It's more about the fact that you're using these oils because you're putting pure things and minimal ingredients onto your skin, rather than putting moisturizers which contain so many ingredients. And I'm not saying moisturizers are bad, but I personally feel I've seen the benefit from just using skin oils.
Just quickly about the face massage. What's a good resource? Do you have anything in your books that talks about this type of thing? Because I literally just rub the cream into my face in a massagey way now. But is there anything that you think is particularly helpful for a listener that wants to perhaps start that practice? How do you know which way to go? Because, there's drainage and stuff.
So number one, I think the massagey way is completely fine to start with. In my book, I do have a face map, which shows you all the marma points. Now, marma points are very specific points to press, and you're pressing the sort of activation points on the face. It's almost like doing the meridian points on the body. So I've given a map on the face where it shows you how to do that. So you can use the oil and do that. And there's obviously, I also say that, there's so many benefits to Chinese medicine, and look at the gua sha as well, because it's wonderful to use that as well. And you can also do it with your hand. And I think use whatever works for you. And if you think gua sha works for you, do it, because it does feel really, really good. And you can get into areas and massage a bit deeper with the gua sha, which is really nice as well. And there are a lot of tools out there, and you will see, what you're talking about, seeing the benefits. I definitely think that with things like face massage, you can almost see instantly, because you'll feel the puffiness reduce, and you look at yourself in the mirror. And for example, in the morning, I find I have a lot of puffiness. But if you, for example, use that cryo thing, which is a bit colder, it will reduce the puffiness, because naturally the ice will help to reduce the puffiness. You'll massage it so the puffiness will reduce. You're helping the circulation on the face, and you'll look less puffy. So actually, those sorts of things you will see almost immediate benefits of.
Yeah.
And some people say, if your skin's oily, will the oil make it more oily? I don't find that at all. And I have got oily skin, and it's not once made my skin more oily.
Yeah, amazing. I know I've got to look at a jade roller. Basically, it's part of the second half of the year. I want to get into all the face stuff, because I just think there's a ritual element. There's a benefit, an aesthetic benefit. If you want to go down the natural route, then, we've got to do something. So I'm definitely looking at all of that. And I want to find this map. Which book is that in of your 3 books?
Oh, so that's in the second book, Prajna Ayurvedic Rituals for Happiness. And speak about the oils in there, and about the face mat and the marma points. One thing I would say, which is what you reminded me of just now, is that, when you make something a ritual and you're like, I need to do that face massage or that body massage, don't think to yourself, I think you can almost feel like, I need to make that time, that sacred time for 5 minutes. I need to sit down by myself. But you know what? You can do this while you're watching TV. You can do this while you're like sitting on the sofa, finishing your work, and just quick massage. And you can do whenever you want, or quick 2-minute thing before bed. Don't overwhelm yourself by thinking, I need to make it. It's nice to do that. I agree. Like if you want to light a candle and sit there and actually make a whole thing of it and make it a ceremony, do it. Great. It's amazing. But don't overwhelm yourself by thinking, you know what, this is my meditation time, and if I don't get 20 minutes to do it, I've missed the window. Like, don't overwhelm yourself, because that's stress in itself, and we're trying to get ourselves away from stress and into relaxation.
I think actually that's made me think of, when I'm doing a busy coaching day, I go for walks around the block in between, and that's my ritual. But actually, sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't want to go around the block again. So that's actually probably a good time to think about some of these other things, even if it's a quick stretch or breath thing, because I need to re-energize quite quickly in between calls and things. So for me, probably end of day, there's only so much you can do with kids and stuff like that. But I think the idea of perhaps interspersing them in other bits of time, especially as we're going to go on to right now, I don't have barely any social media on my phone. So I actually think some of these make nice little breaks during the day as well. So that's really nice. Yeah, the only other bit on rituals that I wanted to ask about was just for those people for whom it's completely new to, like the idea of oil pulling. Can you just sell it to me? Like what might make me do something that sounds a bit strange, like swishing coconut oil around my mouth?
Yeah, so you just take a little bit of coconut oil or sesame oil, and it doesn't taste of anything. So you just put it in your mouth, and before you brush your teeth, some people do it after they brush their teeth. It basically, you swivel it around for 2 minutes, maybe while you're sitting on the toilet, whatever it is you're doing, just for 2 minutes, just swivel it around, or for 5 minutes, like you can extend it. And then chuck it out. And ideally don't do that in the sink, because obviously you don't want to clog up the sink by putting oil into the sink. It basically removes, so overnight we accumulate something called armor, which is called toxins. And the armor that accumulate, there are ways of getting rid of that armor. One way is by tongue scraping. So you're removing that white stuff on your skin, on your tongue. And like what you were saying, we don't know the reasons why we do certain things, and that's completely fine. But at least if we understand the reasons, you're like, oh, now I understand why I've been doing it all these years. But actually, if you think about even brushing your teeth, you sort of understand that you're cleaning your teeth, but there's probably a lot more science that goes into that as well. So it's similar to that, where we've been doing this tongue scraping thing for years and not understood it. But, it cleans your tongue essentially, but there's more benefits. You're accumulating these toxins, you're getting rid of them. So that's one of the things. The other way is by oil pulling, and that again gets rid of toxins. It pulls the toxins out of your system. So it's there's a bit more going on there than just removing it from the tongue. It's adding to that because you're pulling it out. The oil works in a way where it pulls these toxins out, and then you're chucking them out of your system. That's another way of doing it. So you've got to think of these things as, yes, pulling toxins out, getting rid of toxins, so detoxing in a way, so cleansing yourself and removing impurities. And obviously the other way of getting rid of toxins is by going to the bathroom, making sure you go every single day. Another way of getting rid of toxins is by sweating out. So running, sweating, going to the sauna and steam, all those things, they get rid of toxins through the skin. So many different ways of getting rid of toxins, but it's really important that we do some of those things. And going to the bathroom is number one, because that gets rid of all the toxins you've accumulated over the night, removing it through the tongue, removing it through oil pulling. So you can build on these habits and see the benefits by just purifying your body and making it more clean.
I love that. So it's part of a bigger expulsion, I guess. Theme.
Building on the toxins. Building on the toxin removal.
Amazing. All right. You've practically sold it to me, so I think I might be integrating that one. Also,
I think I sold it to me because I've not been doing it for a while now, so that's going to be my next ritual because of this podcast.
Also, I do love coconut oil, and I love organic coconut oil. I love the smell of it, so I'm assuming that's the one that we would use. And in the summer, I don't know if you've noticed, but it kind of goes clear white, like it gets a bit more runny, so it's probably a good time to do it as well in the summer.
Absolutely. And you know what, I would say coconut oil, there's so many uses to it. Even if you want to just massage your body with coconut oil, it's great. And it's good for any dry skin. So if you've got like a dry scalp, you can put obviously coconut oil in your hair. And one thing I use it for every single day is to remove my eye makeup. It literally removes it within, it's the best thing to remove your eye makeup.
Really? So you don't use a specific eye makeup remover, you use that? Okay.
I've not had an eye makeup remover for years now, because coconut oil literally takes everything off, and then you just you use a face wash to wash it all off.
Yeah, it sounds a lot less harsh, so that's nice. Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about rituals, and we have now talked about a few of your books at the same time. But just for people who are new to your world, if you could give us literally one line about your 3 books, because it's 3 now, right? And just the journey of the 3 and what each one might bring.
So my first one is a cookbook called Saffron Soul, which focuses on the food that I've grown up eating, healthy Indian, but very simple and easy to make Indian food, specifically from the region of India that we're from, which is called Gujarat. However, it's also got my own improvisations and recipes and creations that I've come up with using Indian inspiration and coming up with my own recipes. So it's got a lot of traditional, a lot of modern, and stories to go with it. The second book is all about my own journey in wellness, including and going through the journey of Ayurveda, but also speaking about rituals that you can instill in day-to-day life, morning, afternoon, evening, with recipes, with also reasoning behind these rituals and practices, rather than just saying these are the things you can do. But it gives a lot of sort of science, the reasoning behind it and why you should do it. not in too much detail, but so that you're not reading extensive amounts. But you can also use it as a book to just open on any page and get some inspiration. The third book goes into, well, it's called The Book of Chai, History, Stories and Recipes, just got published a couple of months ago. And it is on chai. Chai is my, I love chai. I love tea and I love spices, but my actual love affair is with spices. And the book goes into the history of chai, of spices, because chai actually just means tea. And how did that come to India, which is really fascinating, to be honest, because it's more of a recent phenomenon than we all think. Yet the history of drinking spices is far older than the history of drinking tea in India. And then it also goes into the benefits. There's so many benefits to each and every spice, and also of tea, and the ritual of tea making in India and in Indian homes all over across the world. And what we now think of as chai is, which is quite different to what chai really is. And lastly, lots and lots of stories of my journeys, my travel journeys in India, which are centered around cups of chai, which I've made centered around cups of chai. And I've done so much travel in India, and I've used this book as a way, as a vehicle to tell some of these stories, but also to tell the stories of my grandmother growing up in a village in Gujarat and her journey of migration, and why she was left there by her mother to be brought up by her grandmother, and how her memories, actually, because she has very specific memories of her nanny, who is her maternal grandmother, making chai in their little village, in their little home in their village in Gujarat, some 85 years ago now, because she just turned 90. So yeah, I've encapsulated a lot in the book, including lots of recipes. And I think all three are so different, and I can't pick a favorite. But if I was to, then I think the last book is my favorite.
Oh, I think they sound like amazing coffee table books. When I think about where they might sit in my house, I feel like they could be there, or like they're very easy to like pick up and browse a little bit of. And I don't know if you've heard of there's a recent film that's come out from my community, which is Oshwal community, and it's very much about the journey from the specific village in Gujarat and how they then went via Kenya and to other parts of the world. And it's really got me thinking about those stories and journeys. And unfortunately, some of my grandparents are not alive now. So there's some questions I can't ask them anymore. You know, that we're like, did they go on a boat? How long was the boat? And, you know, how long was the journey? And you've really done that stuff and embodied that. And we've seen it. I've watched your videos where you're doing this sort of thing. And I just think it's so wonderful that you've managed to integrate this very contemporary well-being culture today with all of these incredible, rich stories and really weave that together. So really inspirational how you keep all of that stuff alive, and definitely want to get further into your books. So thank you for listening to part one of our conversation. Mira has a few strings to her bow, and next time I'm going to be picking her brains on how she moved from author and influencer to a physical business, one that produces chai spice and sells it B2B as well as B2C. We also peel back the curtain on how the Instagram platform has helped her career, the specifics of how that's worked for her, and the reality of being a business owner and influencer. So stay tuned for that behind the scenes episode and continuation of our conversation in part 2. And thank you, as always, for listening to the Executive Coach podcast. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message there, let me know what you're finding interesting and what you want to hear more of. Lots of wide open space over the next few months to do specific episodes that are geared to the things that you're interested in hearing more about. And as always, if you are interested in finding out more about how you can work with me, the link to that will be in the show notes. I look forward to connecting with you next time. Bye-bye.